Straight to the point, no sugarcoating. This is the Dacia Bigster Hybrid G150 4x4, a brand new SUV that Dacia is throwing into the ring for the bang-for-your-buck markets across Europe. Think France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and even Eastern Europe, where people love their SUVs big, cheap, but still tough enough to survive the abuse. While most car makers are busy pushing overpriced EVs, Dacia shows up with the Bigster. Bigger than the Duster, but still carrying that for the practical folks DNA. They know exactly what buyers in these markets want. A car that hauls the whole family, can go 900 miles on a single fill-up, climb mountain roads, cruise down to the beach, and still not blow a hole in your budget. Basically, it's targeting the compact C-SUV segment that's already crowded with the Toyota Corolla Cross, Hyundai Tucson, and Kia Sportage. But instead of playing nice, Dacia just tossed the Bigster in like a wild card to shake things up. Now, here's the question for you. If you were buying an SUV in Europe, would you go for the flashy ride that costs twice as much, or the slightly rough-around-the-edges Bigster that just gets the job done day after day? And hey, if you enjoy this kind of market breakdown, don't forget to hit subscribe to Carcry, because honestly, who else tells you straight up which cars will thrive and which ones are already on their way to the junkyard? All right, pop the hood and let's check out the Frankenstein brain Dacia stitched into the Bigster Hybrid G150 4x4. It's a tiny 1.2-liter, 3-cylinder turbo. Sounds weak on paper, right? But pair it with an electric motor and an LPG tank, and suddenly you're looking at 154 horsepower. Not a crazy number, but remember, this is a brand that sells to people in France, Romania, Poland, folks who count every drop of fuel like it's gold. Here's the trick. 3 power sources working in parallel: gas, electric, and LPG. In the city, you can roll on electric power for over 60% of your trips. That means your work clothes don't come home smelling like fuel every evening. And when it's time for a road trip, the LPG kicks in as an extra tank, stretching total range up to around 900 miles. Basically, you could drive from Berlin to Paris, swing by Lyon for some wine, and still have enough left in the tank to head back. Think of the Bigster like a small-town soccer team that suddenly hires a foreign goalie. The lineup looks a little odd, but hey, somehow they keep a clean sheet. No flashy bicycle kicks, but solid, reliable defense that wins games. And if you live in a place with plenty of LPG pumps, like Italy or Poland, this thing is basically a giant portable power bank on wheels. So let me throw it to you. Would you rather stick with a traditional hybrid or go for this 3-way gas, electric, LPG fusion that pushes your range way further? A strong engine needs the right box to send that power to the wheels. And here, the Bigster goes with a 6-speed dual clutch up front, plus a 2-speed gearbox at the rear axle. Sounds complicated? Nah, it's basically like a suitcase with 2 zipper levels. Open the right one, it's smooth as a 5-star hotel check-in. Open the wrong one, and you're sweating in the lobby trying to find your passport. Now, the cool part, that rear axle isn't always working. Most of the time, it runs as front-wheel drive to save fuel. But if the sensors detect slippery roads, or if you stomp on the pedal, the system kicks in the rear motor automatically. No more fiddling with drive modes like old-school SUVs. The Bigster just handles it for you. Anyone who's ever driven on a wet Autobahn or a rainy interstate knows the fear. You don't want your big SUV turning into a floaty at 70 miles per hour. That's where this setup shines. Efficient most of the time, grippy when it matters. And the best part? Dacia doesn't drown it in fancy buzzwords, they just make it work. All right, let's troll a bit. If luxury drivetrains are like a ballet, graceful, elegant, but pricey, tickets, then the Bigster is more like your uncle breaking out disco moves at a wedding. Maybe not picture perfect, but he's on beat, keeps the dance floor alive, and doesn't break the bank. So here's the question for you guys. Do you prefer the silky, over-engineered smoothness? Or would you rather stick with a gearbox that's practical, tough, and cheap to maintain? Talking about an SUV without mentioning the chassis is like talking about cooking without the pot. The Bigster measures over 4.5 meters long, 1.8 wide, and has 22 centimeters of ground clearance, higher than your hiking boots, my friend. On paper, the approach, departure, and breakover angles are all solid enough to make you think twice before saying, nah, that gravel road to the weekend cabin is too much. But hold up, this isn't a Land Cruiser.
Think of it more like that neighbor who shows up to a mountain hike in flip-flops. You laugh until he's the one casually reaching the summit. Credit goes to its stiff suspension and tough platform, tuned to soak up potholes, speed bumps, and those cracked back roads you'll find all over Eastern Europe. The beauty here? Dacia skipped the flashy gimmicks and went full function over form. No fancy air suspension that inflates like a bouncy castle, but the Bigster chassis holds its line. Take a corner and it won't wobble like an old ferry. If you've ever driven in Romania or Poland, roads rougher than your uncle's beard, you'll get why this kind of durability matters. And yeah, let's troll a bit. Off-roading in a Bigster won't make you an Instagram star, but at least when you load up the family for a picnic, the car won't get stuck in a puddle the size of a coffee cup. And for those of you whose buddies keep roasting your mall SUV that's only good for climbing curbs, hey, with 22 centimeters of clearance, this thing doesn't just climb curbs, it performs circus tricks on them. So here's the question. Do you want an SUV just to flex on city streets, or do you need it for the occasional light trekking trip?
Now we get to the part everyone loves to ask. Is the interior as cheap as the rumors say? Short answer, yes, but it's smart cheap. The seats? Cloth or synthetic leather. The dashboard? Mostly hard plastic. But here's the thing. It's screwed together solidly. No toy tar smell, no squeaks when you crank the wheel full lock. In the middle, you get a 10-inch touchscreen, floating like a tablet. Big enough for Google Maps, Spotify, CarPlay, or Android Auto to run smooth. Forget about Harman Kardon speakers or massaging seats. But the radio is clear, and the AC blows colder, faster than some cars that cost twice as much. Here's a detail I actually like. Dacia kept real physical knobs because they know their main buyers, in places like Eastern and Southern Europe, don't want to poke around on a laggy screen while driving. That kind of down-to-earth practicality, Japanese and Korean city SUVs often forget it. The rear seats? Spacious. The trunk? Over 500 liters. Translation? Enough for luggage, a folding bike, or a weekend's worth of Costco shopping. The Bigster doesn't turn you into a penthouse owner, but it sure turns you into a practical mom or dad with a cargo hold that screams family life on wheels. Bonus point, the cabin layout isn't flashy, but it's easy to clean. Kids spill milk? Grab a wet wipe. No need to call in a detailing squad. So, here's the question. Would you rather have a flashy interior that breaks down or a simple one that takes a beating and keeps going?
Now let's talk about the drivetrain, the part that makes a lot of people raise an eyebrow. Like, wait, Dacia does hybrid now? Yep, the Bigster isn't just a budget beast in flip-flops. It's a beast that actually knows how to save gas. Under the hood, you've got a 1.6-liter gas engine paired with an electric motor, pumping out about 140 horsepower. Sounds weak? Remember, this thing isn't here to drag race a BMW M3. It's built to haul you through city traffic, weekend country roads, and even climb some serious hills without forcing you to stop for gas every single day. The transmission is Renault's multi-mode hybrid box. Simple, with fewer clutches, meaning fewer chances of those annoying breakdowns compared to the CVTs that whine like a cat stuck in a fence. And yes, Dacia remembered the 4x4 crowd. There's an all-wheel drive version with an electronic diff lock so you can crawl through mud or snowy slopes without hopping out to dig. Let's be real, it's no Land Cruiser, but for the price, the Bigster Hybrid 4x4 will get you off that wet grassy field where those shiny crossovers just sit there, waiting for a tow truck. Fuel economy? Officially around 5 liters per 100 kilometers, realistically more like 6 to 6.5, which means your daily gas bill equals the price of a cappuccino. Not as cheap as charging an EV at home, but at least you're not hunting for a charging station halfway down the interstate. So here's my question for you. A budget hybrid 4x4 SUV, is that a slap in the face for the mainstream brands, or what?
To wrap this up, the Bigster Hybrid 4x4 is basically like one of those $12 buffets in Europe. No lobster on the table, but you leave full, you've had the main dishes, and you've still got enough cash left for a cold beer afterward. It's not a car for show-offs, and it's not for speed junkies either. This is the kind of SUV that just does the real-life stuff. Hauling the family, hitting the grocery store, towing a small trailer, or splashing through a muddy back road once in a while. Its main hunting ground? Eastern and Southern Europe.
Markets where people value tough, easy-to-fix cars with cheap running costs. And here's the twist. That's exactly why Toyota, Hyundai, and Volkswagen are sweating. They know a budget-friendly 7-seater hybrid SUV like this will steal customers right out of their lower tiers. Of course, let's be straight. The interior won't wow you. Horsepower isn't headline-grabbing, and the badge isn't premium. But here's the punchline. For around 30,000 euros, you're getting a 7-seat hybrid 4x4 SUV. Meanwhile, other brands will happily sell you a tiny electric hatchback that doesn't even come with roof rails. So what do you think? Worth hitting that subscribe button and waiting for when the Bigster finally lands in showrooms so we can test it in the real world? Because skipping that would be like stuffing yourself at a buffet and then sneaking out without paying the parking fee.